One of the fun things, also informative things to do, is go and look back at history, right? To understand who you are, you need to know who you were and where you've been. And our history, our past, can be a tremendous teaching tool, I find. And I think this holds true in some cases for the NFL draft. Now, we can go back and look, and sometimes we think we've learned, and then the reality is we really haven't. But a few years removed from the 2021 NFL draft, I wonder, where did everyone go wrong with that quarterback class? Because the 2021 quarterback class was supposed to be great. It was supposed to be loaded. It was supposed to be this. It was supposed to be that. And by and large, none of that shit happened. You had 10 quarterbacks overall go in that draft, but you had 5 go in the top 15, and quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3, which I think was the first time it happened since like 1971, some crazy shit like that. Like, that's the type of quarterback class it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be special, folks. And now, as the 2021 quarterback class has reached its third NFL season, we're mostly through their third NFL season, there is one thing we can pretty much all agree on. This quarterback class has been nothing but a disappointment. It certainly is not elite. It is a largely bust of a quarterback class, which makes me wonder, why is that? What are those lessons that we can glean from 2+ years ago? What are those lessons that we can learn from the past to inform our future? So let's talk about that a little bit. Where did everyone go wrong with this 2021 quarterback class? First, I'll call it out because it's not a nothing, right? For these guys in the 2021 quarterback class, their last season in college was the 2020 COVID-impacted season. That was the season that for some guys they lost a part of a season, most of a season. Like Trey Lance only played 1 game. Justin Fields, including college football playoff, only played 8. You had players opting out all over the place. So when you look at the 2021 draft, in general, you had less film overall to study compared to other prospects in other years. Now, that's not a great excuse, right? But it's not a nothing. You know, these guys in their last year before they make the jump in competition and talent to the NFL are playing less football, not a recipe or formula for success. Like, another thing that got overlooked in that process when evaluating those quarterbacks in 2021 is the one-year wonders and how they got overvalued. Zach Wilson only had 1 top season at BYU. Trey Lance, only had 1 season as a starter in 2019. So he played 1 game in 2020, had 1 full season in 2019, and you're supposed to evaluate everything based off of a season he had 2 years ago. Mac Jones only had 1 season as the primary starter at Alabama. So these guys that had 1 year got overvalued. It was more tantalizing to think about what they could be versus maybe the reality of what they were. I certainly think for that 2021 class, it was media overhyped. There's no question about that. And to sit there and pretend like teams don't buy into the media hype, bullshit. Fans buy into it, so do teams. Don't get it twisted. Trevor Lawrence was billed as generational, and he never was. People wanted to think about him like that because he had a high media profile going back to high school, and here's sunshine and da-da-da. But the reality is, he was not generational. He was a very good prospect, but he was not a truly special all-time quarterback prospect. He just wasn't. He wasn't in the Elway tier. He wasn't in the Peyton Manning tier as a prospect. No fucking way. And I think too many people got caught up in that when it came to Trevor Lawrence. Now, he certainly hasn't busted, right? But, you know, the disconnect between what he was as a prospect and what people actually thought he was going to be as a quarterback, there was quite a big difference there. Zach Wilson got a lot of Mahomes comparisons, just missing the mark badly. And hey, I've got to fall on the sword too. Like, this is one of the worst quarterback class evaluations I've ever done was 2021. It was really bad. And Zach Wilson was right at the top of the list. There were certainly some Mahomes-like plays, but he wasn't a Mahomes-like player. And I know myself, I didn't do a good enough job of pressure testing some things. I didn't do a good enough job of really looking at the bigger picture. I latched on too much to some of the potential, some of the high upside plays, and ignored a lot of the other baseline underlying fundamentals that were kind of rotted. Looking at Trey Lance, he's an example of everyone to me trying to prove they're smarter than the rest. Here's the guy with all the physical tools. He was a one-year starter at a smaller school, and if we get it right, my God, we're going to look like geniuses. Justin Fields was talked about as an elite prospect for a year plus. And the reality is he was not. He played at a high-profile program, played in a lot of high-profile games, but his game itself was not a high-profile elite prospect. It just wasn't. And there's no way Mac Jones is a mid-first round pick if he doesn't play under the Alabama spotlight. Period. Full stop. So all 5 of these guys got a tremendous amount of media hype to varying degrees. I think certainly played a role. I think another thing this is really important too when grading and evaluating quarterbacks. And we're going to see how this plays out with the 2024 class with guys like Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., etc. It's an improper weighting of the results versus the process. Trevor Lawrence had great, tremendous results at Clemson, but his flaws and limitations were evident. He was very much a one-read quarterback. His arm talent was good, but it certainly wasn't generational. It wasn't that special. His arm strength wasn't that great. His accuracy at times was spotty. My point is people would look at the result, oh, that's a big play, oh, that's a touchdown, and they ignore the underlying elements there, the fundamentals, the limitations, the flaws that are screaming in the face. Same holds true for Justin Fields. You look at how many touchdowns he threw for in the playoffs. Yeah, and look at how long he held on to the ball and how he missed open receivers and how he was late to respond to what he saw. These are things you got to pay attention to. Don't weigh the result and the outcome of the play disproportionately compared to the prospect and the process and the profile of the tools. It can also hold true for Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, right? Mac Jones playing at a high-profile program in the biggest games. Zach Wilson, he was at BYU. Here's great white hype, right? He's got some Mahomes-like things, ignoring all the other things. But he would make some big splashy play and you forget about everything else. Results are one thing, but when you're talking about thinking about these guys and how they project to the NFL level, that's what it's about, is projection. You've got to look at the process, not just the results. I think a big part of it too was demand led to inflationary quarterback value. Teams are desperate for quarterbacks. You only have but so many, and it's a very small number, that are truly special in terms of NFL starting quarterbacks. You have the creme de la creme, the Patrick Mahomes tier and the guys in his ballpark like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, etc. Maybe a Jalen Hurts if you want to get there. Lamar Jackson type. Now you start getting into the tier 2 guys, right? Like the Lamars and the Justin Herberts. Maybe a Trevor Lawrence. Trevor's certainly not in tier 1. But the point I'm getting at here is teams are desperate to find that guy because they know it's the most important position in North American professional sports. And as a result, a demand bubble is created. And it artificially inflates the value of all of these quarterback prospects. Like Trevor Lawrence going first, everybody could see that coming. We knew that was happening for a year plus. But were Zach Wilson and Trey Lance in a bubble so special as prospects and talents that they needed to go picks 2 and 3? The answer is no. Were Justin Fields and Mac Jones so special that they merited top 15 picks? Again, the answer is no. But it even goes beyond those guys. Kyle Trask from Florida, a second-round pick? In what damn universe? Huh? Another guy, speaking of another guy I got really wrong, Kellen Mond, a third-rounder. Yikes to me and yikes to the Vikings that took him there. Ian Book in the 4th round? Saints, get the fuck out of here. You took an undrafted grade type of player and spent a mid-round pick on him. So you see how the demand, that desperation led to dumb decisions. And teams have got to be careful of that. I understand when you talk about quarterback, you're going to value them a little bit more. You might draft them a little bit higher than you should compared to other positions if you truly stay true to your draft board, but be careful of those massive reaches and trying to give yourself confirmation bias too much of we've just got to take that quarterback. Don't let demand and desperation lead you to dumb things, dumb decisions. And you know, part of this I think is bad teams being bad at evaluating the most important position. That's why they keep finding themselves in a spot where they take a quarterback every few fucking years. The Jaguars, before that, you've got Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles. They sucked. Bad organization, made bad evaluations at the quarterback position. They're lucky they kind of stumbled into the spot where they could take Trevor Lawrence first overall. The Jets with Sam Darnold, and then before that, Mark Sanchez. This is an organization that shows that they don't know what the fuck they're doing at the quarterback position either. The Bears with Rex Grossman, the Jay Cutler trade. After that, Mitchell Trubisky most recently. You finding some themes here? You say want to blame the organizations alone. Yeah, well, the organizations are bad, and part of the thing about them being bad is they make bad decisions in terms of who they draft at quarterback. Period. And then you compile that onto another big factor, and this is a big factor, bad teams who put young QBs into bad situations. The Jags are lucky. They wasted basically all of Trevor Lawrence's first year under Urban Meyer. What a disaster that was. Thankfully, they righted the ship bringing in Doug Peterson. The Jets offense stunk in Zach Wilson's first year. Robert Saleh lacked confidence in him, still lacks confidence in him. Wasn't set up for success. Trey Lance had to sit when he should have been playing, especially for a guy that needed reps because he had only played that one season in 2019. He needed to fucking play. Instead, he sat because the 49ers just had to start Jimmy Garbage Pail. You saw that fucking worked out. Then when Lance does get into the lineup, he gets hurt. Organization lacks confidence already. Brock Purdy eventually gets a shot, and they can't wait to throw away Trey Lance. Fields being saddled with a lame duck GM as coach, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. Then you bring in a new general manager in Ryan Poles who prioritized the wrong thing, namely, hey, the first thing I want to do to build around my young quarterback is hire a defensive-minded head coach. That's stupid. Stupid, fucking stupid. And when you look at the 2021 class, that's a common theme you can call out for a few of these guys, right? You can say, well, that doesn't really explain Trey Lance. Fair point. That doesn't explain Trevor Lawrence being good. Fair point. They went after offensive-minded guys at least, right? But the Jets bring in Robert Saleh to work with fucking Zach Wilson. Bad decision. In terms of defensive-minded head coach who tend to be conservative by nature, working with young quarterbacks, defensive-minded head coaches tending to value protecting the ball and minimizing mistakes too much to where young quarterbacks can't make mistakes on the job, can't learn and grow from them. Bad combination in a lot of ways. Mac Jones with Bill Belichick. Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus. Putting these young quarterbacks in situations where the guy that they are supposed to look to lead them, most of all, can't fucking relate to them and can only provide them but so much help is a recipe for disaster. So yeah, everybody, unless, and you certainly have those, so let me not say everybody. There are people that said that this 2021 quarterback class was not going to be very good and was overrated as shit. And they were spot on. I was wrong in terms of Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. But I feel I was right in terms of Trevor Lawrence was not a generational guy. Justin Fields was overrated. Mac Jones initially looked good. Evaluation now doesn't look so good, right? But I wasn't the only one. A lot of people screwed this class up. And I think it's due to these different factors that I'm talking about here, right? Desperation leading to dumb draft decisions. That's certainly part of it. Putting quarterbacks into bad situations. And just these guys getting overrated as shit in some cases. So to me, I'm thinking about the 2021 class in part when I start to evaluate the quarterbacks for the 2024 class. And I'm hoping that I can learn from the mistakes of the past and apply those learnings to the future. Because, a couple of years ago, this class was supposed to be a big something. It ended up being a whole lot of mostly nothing.